Hello there, this is Karis and you're listening to Uncommon Humanity. I'm so glad you are here. In this episode, I finally get to sit down with our lead pastors, CJ and Edwin, for a really special conversation. We went behind the scenes of our recent renovation, how different it is, and even more exciting, what they are hoping and dreaming about for the future of this community. It's a moment of looking back, but also looking ahead with honesty, heart, and vision. So, let's get to it. So we've had an awesome Easter. Woo! Just 2 weeks ago. Woo! It's our first Easter and a new place. Finally, we've moved in here.
Finally.
And we invited all our friends and all. I think it was very nice. We had a lot of great feedback. And personally, I think for me, what I love about the gathering was the vibe, the feeling. I think when you walk in, it's very different. The music, the sound, the look of it is very different. I think we have new friends who told us it feels like almost like a runway. They're watching a runway
show.
runway show. Yeah. So, but I love it. It's a certain feeling that is like very cool, very chic. Yeah. So, what was your favorite part of Easter?
Well, I think like the room is very cool, but it's like a home to me.
I heard it's very cool. Okay,
Cool.
sorry, cool.
Yes,
okay.
cool. But I find that there's a feeling of like home for me.
Okay.
I really love
Aww.
that. Yeah. So and it's a cool home.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Is it because you've been spending a lot of time?
Yes, I've been spending a lot of time here because of
Sleeping
renovation
over,
as well.
he's been working very hard. He's been sleeping over this
Yes.
place.
Yeah. I think for me, the favorite part was the vibe, like what you say. Yeah, which again, applause to Cindy. Yeah, because she made it happen. We just basically told her what we wanted.
Yeah.
We got some inspiration from Lainey because some of us went down to a concert last year or something, and then we were very inspired by how they use music. And so we decided, hey, why don't we not have Christian music playing before service,
Where it's just all
hyping
hype and
everybody
all
up,
that,
and the lights are super bright. And so we want to create a more like kind of cool, moody vibe as you come into the sanctuary to worship. Now, mind you, I still work in progress. Because some comments were, after service, too soothing
Sleepy.
already.
Too
Very hard to
comfortable.
share the gospel with our
The
friends.
lights a bit too dark.
Yeah, I know, which I found really quite funny. Were they really that sleepy? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Vivian is
Yeah.
nodding over
Yes,
there from the
yes.
sound console. Yeah, so we're changing out a little bit, but generally it'll be a different vibe, which I don't think has really been seen in churches
Yeah.
before.
That's true.
Yeah, it'll sort of give you like you're walking into a cathedral feeling, but a modern.
I feel like it makes new
Sanctuary.
friends feel more settled, more
Yes.
grounded.
That's true.
Like they walk in, they feel like I'm ready, I'm expecting something. Like, yeah.
But is it like that for the youth? We're not sure.
Is it sleepy for them or?
Okay lah, but I think it looks cool lah.
It is
Yeah,
cool.
no,
It
some of
is
the
cool.
inspirations
Yes,
for the
yes.
were because of Ting Ting, and then she had like the
Yeah.
Dior runway videos that she was sending us. Yeah, so like she wanted to help us create an art gallery
Yes.
vibe, which is I think
Yeah.
what you're referring
Yes.
to lah.
And we were
Yes.
saying that how like the Easter was like the first gathering, we have everything kind of like the seating arrangements, the feeling that we wanna have. So yeah, I mean renovation is still ongoing. It's not quite done yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I mean talking about renovation, this is Edwin's first renovation that he is not just involved, but he is like fully involved. He's in it, leading it, fronting it, and whereas
In hell?
Oh,
Out of hell? 17 level of hell.
yeah, whereas PC
Yeah.
on the other hand is trying to take a step back for the very first time
Yes.
from renovation. So it's like almost like a switch of roles, right? I mean, how has that been?
Yeah. It's a great experience, but it's a very very tough experience also.
I can imagine.
Yeah, no, because I hear stories from the reno team from the previous renos that we had, right? And it is a very difficult one, and it requires a lot of time and energy. And I really got a taste of it, this time around. And on top of that, I'm also leading the church, and there are times every day I'm sitting every single day here to supervise the renovation to make sure everything is set up. But I'm also responsible for people, and I'm also like there are days that when I'm like texting a friend, and then the moment there's a random problem pop up, then it takes away another 2-3 hours of my time trying to resolve certain things. Or I have to be there, and I couldn't continue the rest of my day.
Yeah.
So I think like it's not easy.
Yes. Welcome
And,
to the life of a lead pastor.
Yes.
Yeah. Glad to have you taking over. Yeah, no, I think it's just because it's a lot of details, right? And
Yes.
it's
A lot.
been this season a lot of set switching.
Yeah.
Like 1 hour you're doing this, then the next 5 minutes you're doing that, and then after that you have to flip back to this. And then there have been some days where I think we come in for gathering, we're settling reno the whole morning, and then we're so frustrated, irritated, and then suddenly it's time for service, and then we got to rush up, we got to preach,
Yeah.
and then be present. There are some days I feel like, wow, it's also my script is there and I'm out of body like delivering the message. But yeah, I think you did a really good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and welcome to the life of a lead pastor. Not as romantic as what people think it is. Do everything right.
It's everything.
Yeah, literally everything.
Yeah.
Right, but talking about messages, right? I remember PC you were sharing with the leaders how, like, for Easter, the message, the testimony, everything for this time round, it just somehow all like lines up, and it's, and it really reflects who we are. You know, what kind of a church or what kind of a gospel we're kind of sharing with people.
Yeah,
maybe we can talk more
because
about
the experience I think the two of us had was because Easter was so busy and we didn't have time to really get used to having the gathering space. So I think Easter was the first time we had it properly out and everything was done. And so there was no time. We were sort of rushing through it and also trying to make sure everyone brings friends. We didn't have time to discuss. We didn't have time to really think through the message like very, very thoroughly, the theme. But I remember he came in, he preached, and then what do you preach? Jesus, I have questions. And but what was the content?
It was to learn, to know more about who Jesus is and how he transformed us to become like, to do more good and have more compassion in the world.
Yeah. And then I remember sitting there listening to his message, like, oh no, my message is exactly the same tomorrow. Of course, it's never exactly the same, but it's like exactly the same points. And I remember going to Cindy, I was like, I need to change some of the words to make sure that at least it sounds fresh to our people. Yeah, so I think it was a very interesting experience because usually when I go into Easter, I'm very battle ready. Oops, fun. Okay, so like I'm very battle ready in terms of like I know what theme I'm going for. I know what I'm trying to bring across to new friends, but too busy this time around, and then just playing it by ear, and somehow it felt like I'm preaching a message that it's like God is speaking to me versus like I'm the one speaking to people. And then I think we basically preach the same thing about how human beings, whether you're Christian or not, are called to be kind, to be good, to be our brother's keeper, to make a difference. And then the testimonies all lined up. Because that's the other thing, we had no time to coordinate. We just told Cindy a rough idea what we want, and then she went to write the testimonies. And these are testimonies we shared over and over again. Like over and over again. But suddenly got new information coming out of their stories. Like we had Helena, and we found out that Helena's doing like women's activism stuff on the side, and then Riley is tutoring, has been for the last 2 years, tutoring deaf primary school youth
for 2 years.
For 2 years, every week. She never told us. Which I don't know whether good or bad. We're like, how come we didn't know? You know, so I sort of like in that moment felt very proud. Oh, wow, they're not doing it for anyone to see. They're just really doing it because they're good human beings. So we're doing something right over here. But I think both of us agreed after that. It was sort of a weird experience. And it felt like God was the one showing us at our first proper gathering what our church is going to be about and what kind of people, the life example through our testimonies, what kind of people we're going to aim to raise up in the world. It was really just good humans. Yeah.
But I also think like, because personally I spend a lot of time during this period because of Reno, right? Human Reno again. But as I'm in this space, I'm also imagining like what kind of, community you want to become. And that's why that the messages that I'm preaching, I realize that maybe perhaps it is also something that I hope that this community will be. Where we become someone who is a good person out there.
Cool.
Yeah.
No wonder you feel like this is your home. Like you've been imagining non-stop.
He's been spending a lot of time.
Time
God is speaking to you here in this place. Anyway, so talking about Reno, I know every single Reno is tough, right? And it's different. But how different is this Reno as compared to all other Renos that we've done?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like we have learned a lot of lessons from all our previous Reno. Definitely.
Experience.
Yes. So shout out to Zihan and to Winnie
for paving the way.
Yeah.
And also I think our community has evolve. Okay, the evolution, right? We evolved a lot since the last reno or the last space we are in, and we figure out a lot like who we are as a community, and it reflects a lot in the way we think about how we want to build this space, how the people will come in to experience God and to also be transformed by it.
Yeah, and I think the difference definitely is, I mean, previous renos, our focus and everything, like what you were mentioning when we were talking before this, that it is, I mean, not that we were always very excellent, we were always very creative, we were always people driven, and the quality of the people was very important, excellence was very important. But it's been a learning curve, right? I think we've grown more proficient in knowing how to do renovation and what we want from a space. But on the other hand, we've also changed in terms of we're a lot clearer how to express that creatively in the space we create. Because I think like this time round, right, is the first time I feel like we've actually succeeded at building a home and a space that feels very us.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying the previous spaces are not lah, because you know, I think for Mimpin we have a very clear goal. Our goal was we need to grow the youth and the youth church and the numbers. And the space was very functional to make that happen. So it looked nice, but then on a budget. Yeah, then City Hall, I think we tried to be a little bit more creative, but we couldn't pull off our creativity. And we didn't know how to work with contractors to pull off our creativity. So at the round stage, we were hoping to build like a community seating around the round stage, but it didn't work, you know, because of the mezzanine and everything. But this time round, we really tried to like, okay, die, we need to create that feeling. And I think like off what you said, what's the difference?
Like I think new friends came in, they really feel like very engaged, very a part of the gathering. Like,
they cannot fall asleep.
Hard for new friends
can see each other
not be
across.
engaged, honestly. Like you can see their eyes darting because they can see like, okay, there's a few pairs of eyes here and a few pairs of eyes there looking at me.
Yeah, so you're watching this on YouTube. I don't know how the camera angle is, but it's a square stage, and they're sitting here and they're sitting there,
the sides and the front,
and we are in a round together, and the stage is much lower, so the preacher is much closer. So the feeling you get is that we are in a conversation together a bit more than last time. It's a presentation and everybody sits and listens to you lah. Yeah, but I can tell they're more engaged. Funnily enough, during the gathering, it's a lot more intimidating. Cause I also cannot pretend I don't see you. Yeah. The lighting helps because now the lighting is so close, right? At least it like masks a little bit of the but you can tell that they're engaged. So it's a very different vibe, and it's deliberate. And this time around, I think for once, we chose to at least set aside a little bit of money to dress up the space a little bit more, like to hire an ID to again, not extravagant, but to do up the place in a way that it felt us. Like we wanted to create a cave-like sanctuary, like a certain kind of vibe. I think we accomplished it maybe a bit too well. Like you think it feels like a runway. I kind of feel like a little bit nightclub, a little bit nightclub vibes.
Like a nightclub.
Not a nightclub.
Not really. But basically I agree. Like that intimate feeling.
Yes.
You know?
And the sound is nice. Like Rebecca was commenting that she could. It's like the sound here, right? It holds, and at the same time you hear yourself singing. So it really does feel like that community. Like you're part of. The part of the thing, which. Thank God, finally, after 3 rounds of reno, we managed to make that happen. Yeah.
I would say that this renovation, as compared to all other renovations, maybe the motivation, it's a little bit different. Meaning to say, I feel like for Kallang to Jalan Pemimpin to City Hub, we were very clear why we were moving. Like we wanted a bigger space. You know, we are already maxed out in our old space, and therefore, you know, there's a reason for that move. But whereas for this move, it was out of a kind of like caught us off guard kind of thing.
Yes.
We were not ready, I would say, to be looking, but we had to. And so I guess that part of it is tough lah.
I think like certain core values and motivations for having a space and a home haven't changed. Like they are very much the same. I think we've always been about building good charactered people and youth. We've always been about growth, and that includes numbers. But I think the space was always very functional to the vision of those core values being expressed was that you grow the church to 50, then after you find a new place. You grow the church to 150, then you find a new place. You grow the church to 200, you find a new place, and that is the visual representation of success.
Yeah.
Yeah, here I still say we want to grow.
Yeah.
Otherwise for what lah? Yeah. But I think this is the first time we are more complete, I think, in who we are,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
the values and the color of our church lines up a little bit more with the actions that we're taking and the money that we're spending, but still in a very frugal and wise way, I think. Yeah.
But I would say also, like, I think we have also found a lot of friends in the process.
Yes.
Yeah, like the past 2 years has been like a traumatic experience, right?
Yes.
But we also gain a lot of great friends into our
Supportive.
community. Yeah, who are supportive, and I think the key difference is that they journey with us. They have been some sort of like integral part of our journey into either towards who we want to become as a community. Yeah, I think it's different because in our City Hub days, I could feel like when we have friends, more like looking for mentors.
Yeah.
For maybe like how do we do church, how do we grow church.
Yes.
But now I think we are looking for a specific kind of like relationship with other people or to do community with.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the journey of anybody kind of growing up, right? Or organization growing up. I think when you first start, you need examples to imitate, to find yourself. And then at some point, you've got to make sure that the people that you are mentored by don't become the limit of how you dream for yourself. And yeah, I get what you mean. Like, it feels like this time around, we're kind of dreaming more as ourselves. We're still looking for mentors. That never changes. Otherwise, you don't grow. But we also now have a lot of supportive friends and nice human beings alongside us, which you were saying has been very
peaceful. Yeah, it's really...
Yeah. I think part of the thing with having been through such a traumatic 2 years of losing our home, and then straight out of the heels of like the exhaustion from COVID.
Oh yeah.
And then moving from space to it's been a very traumatic, and we don't want to use that word lightly, right? But I don't think it's understating it to say our church has had a traumatic time in the past 2 years. Yeah, so I think we are kind of like, we just want peace. Like, give us peace. Like, we move to a place, we don't want to move for it. You know what I mean? We want to be at peace with the people that we're in relationship with. We don't want any drama. We don't want any confrontation. We don't want any we want peace. Peace. Yeah. So and it does feel like that. I think God has given us peace. It didn't feel like that the past 2 years, but I think He answered the prayer of I think the number one thing is just we want rest.
Yes, and I think we are really like a drama-free church. We
Yes.
stay far away from us. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to say that it's so nice to have an office finally after 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, finally we are.
Yes, go.
Oh, okay.
Why?
No,
yes,
I was
the obvious. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I wanted to say it's so nice to have an office finally after 1.5, 2 years. Like a place to like work together, to have meetings and all that. I mean, we have always had space, in a transitional space and all that, but we to be in and out of, to be in a place and hang out and all that, I think it really makes a difference.
Yes.
I think it's interesting, like, it's only the past few weeks where we actually gather in the office that I miss the feeling of us coming together. And it's like a space that we can be fully present. Because the past 2 years, we are in a transition space, but every time we gather, it was just, let's get things done and then we move on, and it's very quick. We didn't spend time together. So now I really enjoyed like times where we could just, we have fun in the office, in any part of the church. But we also, during meetings, I just feel like we could focus better or being more present. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think the time where our team was bonded the strongest was definitely like when we had our own space. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think even with City Hub, it's very interesting how it just became like, it's like standing joke. We just like forever hanging out doing nothing and wasting time together even after meetings. But we were the most bonded and the most in sync, don't you feel? We reached a point where there's like hardly any quarreling, and we're very aligned, and like quarrels are very minor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because something happens when you're with people day in, day out. Yeah. But I do miss the part like in this new space, right, where I feel, but maybe we need to be fully renovated. Then I will
Assess
catch.
again.
Yeah, I'll assess again. But I think City Hub, the problem was the walls were so thin and the floor was so thin.
Yeah, everything going on.
That like we
Yeah.
could never have multiple meetings. Everybody could hear everybody,
Yeah.
and it's very funny. You know, like Pemimpin and my office was always the space where all the sound collected, so I could hear people gossiping sometimes, which was very funny.
No.
Yeah, but I can hear what's going on. I can feel the vibe of the room, and then
Yeah.
while we're having meeting, people can see us from downstairs. Like there was a certain transparency with the walls. Yeah, so the whole church held together. But now this place, because we soundproofed it so well, right,
We
to be
wanted
functional in
yes.
terms of that, right? Now when someone disappears through a door,
Gone.
it's like they don't exist in my yeah. Or you know, like before service, I'm doing
That's true.
sermon, and then I think like service hasn't started. Then suddenly I open the door, and it's like boom, the sound comes
Some
out.
portal
at
into
me.
a new
Portal
world.
in the new world. Yeah. So I'm gonna wonder how that will affect us, because if let's say we become too segregated, I'm probably gonna make like service ops go to the office to have meetings so that they still feel like everybody is integrated. Yeah. So we'll see how that pans out. But it's an interesting problem. Like this problem that we've been trying to solve all these years suddenly has its own problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But yes, office is, I'm thinking too practical with it.
No.
Yeah, y'all love the office. How do you like your
I love
new
the
office?
Yeah. I love
Do you like your
that.
new little office?
yeah.
Yeah, I have already spent the night there.
Yay.
Please
like
don't do
your
it because it's very
office.
dusty and right now. So and I fell
Yeah.
asleep, yeah. But it's I think it's cool because I did meetings already in the room.
Many
I-
meetings.
okay, I'm
Yeah,
not,
we're all watching
yeah.
you and you're having
Yeah,
meeting.
I mean, I'm not trying to boast as like an office. I have an office, that kind of thing. But it's
Yeah, it's a
it's
small
just
office.
nice that I just am dreaming about like how I can mentor people or talk to people. I feel like a space. I really now value like a space is really important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will purposely put you there, you know. Yeah.
I have
No,
the whole-
because
the
I
view of the
always
whole
watch,
office.
he always like to sit a place where he can see everybody.
Ah.
Even in City Hub, he will ask for a table where he
I
can
have a
see everybody.
corner.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I don't want to see anybody.
Perfect
It's
room.
distracting. So they put me in a way that I'm like sort of sideways.
Yes,
I can
yes.
see, but I can't really see. Yeah.
Yeah, but many of you don't know this, or many of us actually don't know this, that pastors actually buy their own furniture for their office,
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
fault. Sorry.
which
No,
is like
it's a
awesome.
Yes.
Tell us why. Tell us.
Yeah, it's a tradition that kind of like it started with, I think, Pemimpin. Yeah, and then I felt that it was important to see for our people to see the leaders take ownership of our own space. That we don't just tell people buy instruments for the worship team because you're on worship team, or help buy a chair because you sit in the chair, which last time we had the raising the money for the
Buy a
chairs,
chair.
right? And I was like, okay, no, then we should show them that leaders can take care of our own furniture. We're not going to abuse your tithes and offerings. And I don't know, maybe because that time was the NKF incident, is it? And then the guy used people's donations to buy gold tap. I'm like, why you need a gold tap? Yeah, I don't know whether it was a reaction to that, but I was like, no, I think people need to see their leaders. If we say give, then we must be the first to give. If we say love people, we must be the first to love people. So it started with that. Then after I found out my mentors actually have been doing the same thing. They will always buy their own furniture so that people know they respect people's tithes. And then it just became a thing that every office onwards I decided to do that lah. I mean, I'm not saying that we don't take like leftover furniture and like use it, but generally we pay for our own law. Yeah, it's also good and protective lah. Nobody can say that we as lead pastors abuse the finances of church.
Yeah.
And then I get a chance to pick nicer furniture also. But all my furniture is second hand, mostly, or very cheap.
But they're all nice.
Yeah, but they're all very awesome.
Yes.
Moving on
Yes.
to
Can go to the
the
next
last
section.
part. Woo!
Yay.
I'm curious. I want to know what do you think the future of TiVo looks like?
That was like a
Pastors.
wow at the back. Deep question. I'm very idealistic. Okay,
You are.
You're in very hopeful mode.
Yeah,
He
I'm very
is.
hopeful.
He is.
Super hopeful.
I
mode.
Yeah.
want this space to work.
Wow.
No, but because I've been like thinking about this space, praying for this space, and one of the things that I really hope for is that people don't just come to this space and go like, oh, I'm just wanting a church to belong, and then I just come every weekend and that's it.
Yeah.
But I feel like we have this certain thing about people's life getting transformed by God, and to actually go out there and do some good.
Yeah, like not just in the four walls of our church, not
Yeah.
just
Yeah, and just from this Easter, I see like glimpses of it, like through people's life, and I'm very hopeful because I know that it can happen, and that's my hope for every single person who step into this space. That whether you are youth, whether you are adult, you can contribute to this community, but also contribute to any spaces that you're in.
Yes.
Whether it's at home, whether it's in your workspace or schools.
Yeah, it really feels like that this year, right? They were raising up people who are the same person through and through.
Yeah.
Versus there's one part of me here in church and I'm struggling to make it happen at work. And so that part I really, I mean, it's very inspiring. Oh man, if you haven't watched that, you should go online and watch. Like, go and listen to the testimonies on the new drops, right?
Messages,
on the TV online. No, they're not in there.
You have to come in person
we have to put it on there.
Or you come
come
in person and hear it yourself.
Yes.
Maybe for me, I need it to sink in a little bit longer. Or maybe I'm in incubation stage. It feels like I'm in incubation. He's like in sudden like super idealistic mode. And warm and fuzzy mode. Yes, Cindy's nodding.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's in very warm and fuzzy mode. I'm still in like very deep incubation and trying to think what things look like structurally to make good human beings happen, I think. I'm in deep thought about what is it going to take to build church in this new generation, in this new world.
Right.
Because the world is changing so much. Yeah, so I think that's the place that I'm at currently. Hopeful, but I'm trying to think what's the strategy to make that.
Right. So what do y'all think like youth, tertiary adults are looking for right now? I mean, in current time and age, in terms of spirituality, in terms of faith, in terms of community?
Well, my personal take is that I think right now the world is very overloaded with either information or even opinions, and I feel like people are looking, or especially young people, they're looking for something. The authenticity might not be the best word, but it's the right now I can.
That word sucks now to me.
But it's to be seen in the space where and there's like intimate connections with people, and I think I do notice that for among young people, and sometimes you can see that people are here but they're not present.
Yes.
But there are people who come and they're present, right? You see literally their lives really change. They are getting healthy friendships, relationships. They actually do something, to make a difference or make a dent in their own community. And I think those are the people who really feel happy in life. Yeah.
There's almost something of like trying to be authentic versus living in a way that lines up with your values and what you want to see happen in the world. And there's something missing in that thing, that connection, I think. And I think because of that, I feel like there's a lot more anxiety. I feel like there's a lot more self-absorption, which inevitably leads to a lot more selfishness. And I say that about our generation and subsequent generations. I don't know what alpha will look like, but I'm not saying other generations never struggle the same things. It's just the form of it and is very different. And I feel that we have to update the way we speak about the gospel. We have to update the way we be part of God transforming lives. But yeah, I think like you brought up some pretty important things in the last couple of key sermons that you preached, right? Especially the vision sermons, right? What this generation needs. And I think one thing is, I think generosity is becoming increasingly lacking, because I think when the world is uncertain, people hold on to stuff.
They're looking for security.
I find the generosity survey that MVPC did in 2023 very disturbing. Anytime I think of that study, I feel disturbed. That kindness is no longer for the sake of, because however you are frustrated with boomers sometimes, like our parents' generation, I think when they were kind, they were genuinely kind for the sake of kind, and not necessarily most of the time to get anything out of it. But so many in our generation are saying they do it for personal reasons, whether it's to make themselves feel better or to make their portfolio looks better. Like that was a shocking one. I find that very disturbing. I find it disturbing that volunteerism is dropping. I find it disturbing that commitment is dropping because those are like the building blocks of relationships
It's true.
and the solution to loneliness.
Yeah.
And this generation's extremely anxious, extremely lonely, extremely isolated. And so I think I think he's brought up a few things that I feel like are very important for churches now to preach, like about generosity, about kindness and what that looks like. So I think there are certain things that we are very, very sure are things that we need to push harder. Yeah. And of course, church building is going to be very, very different. Like, I think money is going to be a struggle for most churches. I think if churches aren't looking into those things, it's dangerous. Yeah. So ideally, I think we want our people to tithe and we want them to be committed to it. But I think we have to prepare for the worst, which is life in Singapore is expensive. Running a church in Singapore is expensive. I know got a lot of rich churches, but I would say majority of churches aren't rich. Don't have millions of dollars to spend. And even I think if we have millions of dollars to spend, I would say our responsibility is to help other people who are struggling and not necessarily to just hoard that money and use it for more lights and more sound system and more. I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it lah. But generally, I think the good human thing is lacking in the gospel nowadays.
So it sounds like we, as a church, we are trying to prepare ourselves to, in the current climate of like this culture that we're having, we're preparing like where people don't give, they're not as generous, they're not as maybe willing to volunteer. We are preparing our church in that way that we can sustain like financially, right? But at the same time, we're also building a culture to swim against this current of like culture where we are talking about generosity, we're talking about making a difference. What is the antidote to this?
I don't know.
It's true.
but I think we do see, I do start to see, I mean, we talk about generosity, we talk about being kind. I think definitely that's at least a direction.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know what's the first step, but as long as you have a direction, I feel like we could always figure out the first step. And we are, I mean, TiVo is a place where we are swimming against the tide. But
always have been.
Always have been since the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, but I that's why I feel hopeful because I go, I mean, to put it in a more spiritual sense.
Yeah.
I do feel, I mean, we believe in a God that really, is able to turn the whole ship around, change the whole nation. And I'm hopeful for that because I do see a way out. Or at least if I don't have, but I want to hope for the best.
Yeah.
And I really don't know the answer. I will keep on figuring out, and I hope everybody here will keep on figuring out with me.
Yeah, but I feel like swimming against the tide is nothing new, right, in history. Like the greatest breakthroughs and changes and transformations in a culture happens when somebody decides to swim against the tide and a few more people decide to swim against the tide. And the thing is, there are people who resonate. I think once you start speaking, the people who resonate with you will find you. And you can hear it's resonating because when you talk, even with the new friends that are coming, they're responding to that makes sense. So I think it's a matter of like majority of us tend to need an example to follow. I think even the greatest innovators and visionaries, we all need examples, right? Because examples give us a tangible thing to aspire to. Just to hear Riley and Helena on stage to see like, hey, the fruits of our labor paid off, and it looks like this is inspiring to even us who were the ones who initially tried to make that kind of church happen with that kind of people. So I just feel the more examples there are, the more your faith gets inspired. So I feel like swimming against the tide is nothing new. It's just tiring. It's like first to die on the beach kind of scenario. But I think we've also the last few years really understood this about ourselves, right? That there's nothing wrong that we are slightly not mainstream,
Yeah.
and that we are a church made for innovators and early adopters and thinkers, and not necessarily a church made for big and mass. And like, if that's your definition of a mega church, then I mean, do we want to be a big church? Yes, of course we want to do it. Do we want to be an influential church? Yes. That's part of my thinking. But we don't feel so much pressure anymore to we must do a certain way and do a certain thing and have certain numbers, that kind of thing. Yeah, so I think that's just part and parcel of the swimming against the tide thing. And if we don't have hope, then how? No one else like that, how? Yeah, but even if we don't, God will find somebody else who's hopeful. So we will, But it is a very strange dynamic. Today he's like so idealistic, because usually he's the systems and execution guy in this partnership. You know, and I'm like, the future, let's be positive. And now it's like, it's flipped. He's like very idealistic and nostalgic. I'm going like, how do we make this happen? Like, what is it we need to change? What is the structure? and then it will flip again at some point. Right. So, but I'm not hopeful. I just know that we're in a hard juncture. We're in a hard season across the world. But if nobody does better, then nobody does better. So somebody's got to do it, right? Okay, so I have a question for y'all, right? What are y'all looking forward to as far as TiVo is concerned?
For me, I am looking forward to momentum, synergy. I think like we had moments like that, I feel.
Yeah,
like
we had a lot of momentum.
Yeah, moments like that.
A lot of
synergy where really 1 + 1 is more than 2. You know, whatever you do, it multiplies. There's this energy in the room. So I don't know.
We should
how
call
long
that
it
we
will
have a
take
lot
to-
more and a lot of sin. Okay, let's go. So you're looking forward to that. I know your sister's looking forward to that. I mean, besides her talking about like, she's looking forward to switches switching on and chairs being in the right place and stuff being in the
Things work
cupboards,
as it
right?
should
Like,
work.
because she is the ministry operations head. She's like, structure, systems, like, but I agree, you know, and I think she misses that a lot too. She's like, we used to run on a higher level. I think for me, I'm looking forward to running on a higher level. But I mean, life has changed a little bit. So I'm also wondering, like, how do I make that happen while all other things are happening? You know what I mean? Because we've all grown up. We're no longer like students really, right? So but I look forward to a higher level of playing. I don't like playing low level. And I think once the structure is in place and we get to build acceleration and momentum and synergy, then I want to run at a high level. Yeah.
Well, I want to play at the ground level. I mean, like, of course, I really love to be on the ground with people. So I really look forward to, I think, spending time with people, but also mentoring people, especially youths. And I feel that, like, I can't change the world, perhaps, but if I can make a difference in someone's life, like 1 or 2 people, I really think that would, you know, make me really
can make a difference in like maybe 200 people or 2,000.
Scalable.
Scalable.
Just, yeah,
like
but
1 or 2 people.